Absolutely. I mean, look, he has a contract with the UFC, so this isn't about bringing him into boxing. This is a commercial representation and an advisory capacity to help him across all of his business. And, you know, I'm sure, and everything that I hear means he can go in there and do serious damage in the boxing world. But
in all honesty, I don't really have a relationship with Dana. I mean, it's a bit of a soap opera. I'm not really a guy who generally likes drama. This is purely a business move for me. I'm not doing this to point score. I made sure, like, when I spoke to Eddie, like, I don't want to be just used for point scoring. That's the last thing I want to do. Eddie set up a great business model, a great future plan for all of us, and we're obviously happy with it. So we are now with Matchroom, and we'll stay with Matchroom, hopefully, until the end of my career. Eddie's the kind of guy, I mean, we're all...
Some surprising news earlier today. Tom Aspinall was signed with Eddie Hearn as a manager. You obviously have some issues with Eddie. What did you think about that news, and what do you make of that decision?
We don't have any issues with Eddie. They can get whoever they want to represent him. Tito Ortiz used to represent people, and we got it done.
Eddie Hearn signs Tom Aspinall after Conor Benn leaves him, and suddenly the power dynamic in combat sports is shifting again. After losing Conor Benn to Dana White's new boxing venture, many believed Hearn had taken a serious hit, but by bringing in UFC heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall, Hearn has fired straight back. It's a calculated business response that shows Eddie isn't backing down from this growing rivalry.
Where he's at and how he feels. I mean, you're talking about the UFC world heavyweight champion. You're talking about one of the biggest stars in British sport. You're talking about one of the biggest stars globally. I mean, you know, in a boxing sense, you are the baddest man on the planet, and that's what he is. And he's a good guy.
Eddie Hearn clearly sees massive commercial potential in Tom Aspinall, and that's where Matchroom's talent agency comes into play. Through his new management setup, Hearn aims to push the UFC heavyweight champion beyond the cage and into global brand territory. This isn't just about fighting, it's about business expansion, sponsorships, and long-term market value, giving Aspinall representation that focuses on maximizing his career outside the octagon as well.
This man who is really the flagship of the UFC in terms of that profile of the undisputed heavyweight champion. We all know that in our sport, that is the absolute coup de grace. There's nothing bigger. And, you know, I know that he's been through a little bit of a tough time lately, and it was really one conversation on Zoom, and I just thought to myself, this guy needs some proper representation. I mean, what you're looking at is one of the greatest fighters in the UFC. As I said, the undisputed heavyweight world champion. He is a man.
Tom Aspinall seems determined to take control of his commercial future, and this move reflects the modern fighter mindset. UFC contracts may limit flexibility inside the cage, but Aspinall believes there's huge earning potential beyond fighting. By joining Eddie Hearn's Matchroom management setup, he's looking to expand his brand, increase sponsorship opportunities, and build a stronger financial foundation while staying active inside the octagon under UFC contract.
Work with them stuff. And when I spoke to Eddie, it just seemed like it worked. It made a lot of sense to me. I think as UFC fighters, we are in contracts that we can't change, but there's a lot of value that we can make outside of the cage as well. Eddie seeing that, that's what me and my small team thought for a long time, but I wanted to just expand the team a little bit and, you know, broaden my horizons a little bit and make as much money commercially outside the octagon as well as inside. And Eddie and Matchroom are on board with it.
Dana White fires back by keeping the rivalry alive without directly escalating it into a full public war. His tone suggests confidence that the UFC system and business model speak for themselves. While he acknowledges competition, there's a subtle warning that boxing promoters may struggle to understand the UFC's operational structure. In classic Dana style, the response mixes business pride with psychological pressure, keeping the spotlight firmly on this combat sports power struggle.
I had a relationship, and I literally didn't see that coming. And to be honest with you, I wasn't going to mess with Eddie at all. You know, I liked him, and I mean, it's been absolutely crazy. I'm talking about him. This guy hasn't shut up since the day I got into the sport. The reason I'm actually, you know, listen, and Eddie said, oh, this is great. I look forward to competing with him, and there's a lot of things he doesn't know about boxing that he's going to learn the hard way.
Michael Bisping explains that Eddie Hearn saw the opportunity to act after Conor Benn left for Dana White. By signing Tom Aspinall, Eddie secures a top UF star under his management agency. This move expands Aspinall's commercial potential and sends a clear message to Dana White that Hearn is ready to strike back in the business side of combat sports.
While we've known Eddie, and Eddie's known Tom, and Eddie thinks that he could do a good job for him. And we sat down and chatted and decided that he could. So that's where we're going. He's going to announce it all today. And Eddie's a really good guy, and we can work well with him.
Eddie Hearn highlights the pay disparity Aspinall faced despite headlining huge UFC events. This injustice reinforced the need for proper management. By bringing Aspinall under his agency, Eddie maximizes his earning and commercial opportunities. At the same time, this is a strategic counter to Dana White, showing Hearn's business acumen and willingness to fight back.
And the reality is that when he was headlining in front of 20,000 on pay-per-view, he was receiving probably half the amount of money that I would pay a boxer for a British title fight at York Hall, Bethnal Green in front of 1,200 people. And I was absolutely baffled and astonished. Now, obviously as he's gone on, those purses have increased, but still to a level that I feel is completely unfair in terms of the revenue that's generated and the risk that is in front of them.
Michael Bisping says Tom Aspinall had been going through a difficult period emotionally, especially after some fan criticism. Despite the negativity, Eddie Hearn saw an opportunity and decided to step in by launching his management agency. Signing the UFC heavyweight champion was a bold move, showing confidence in Aspinall's brand and reinforcing Hearn's strategic response to Dana White's business influence in combat sports.
And yeah, he was basically almost crying, right? And now all of a sudden, Eddie Hearn has decided to launch a management agency, and the first person that he has signed is Tom Aspinall, the UFC's heavyweight champion of the world. That's been going through a bit of an emotional roller coaster lately because the fans have kind of turned on him. They've all talked a ton of shit. To be honest, he didn't deserve any of that stuff. Maybe some of the fans thought he could have handled it better or something like that, but regardless, he signed with Eddie Hearn.
Ariel Helwani reports that Eddie Hearn encouraged Tom Aspinall to regain confidence and embrace his status as one of the biggest stars in combat sports. Hearn believed Aspinall had lost some of his competitive mindset due to outside pressure. The message was simple: stand tall as the UFC heavyweight champion and focus on building both fighting dominance and commercial power.
Eddie told me, when I started speaking to Tom, I found a guy, this is a quote from Eddie, that was removed of his mojo. I told him to get your head up. You are the UFC heavyweight champ and one of the biggest stars in combat sport. Let's go and get what's fucking yours.
Tom Aspinall says UFC fighters usually don't have a direct personal relationship with Dana White, as most communication goes through management or executives like Hunter. This highlights the professional distance within the UFC structure. Aspinall's decision to sign with Eddie Hearn's management agency shows he is focused on building his career commercially, maximizing sponsorships, and expanding his brand outside the octagon, while still competing at the highest level inside the UFC.
Fighters don't really have a personal relationship with Dana. We go through Hunter, so I don't think it's really his job defending him. I don't think it's really his job to reach out, but no, I've not spoke to him personally, no.
The Wade Concept explains that Eddie Hearn's move to sign Tom Aspinall is a deliberate business counter to Dana White after Conor Benn left Matchroom for Zuffa Boxing. It's a high-stakes chess move in combat sports management, signaling Hearn's intention to protect his talent pool and assert influence. The deal demonstrates how promoters are increasingly using management contracts to compete over star power and commercial opportunities beyond just fights inside the cage or ring.
Tom Aspinall, Eddie Hearn. This is a chess move from Eddie Hearn to Dana White. After Dana White comes in, stole that, give me that shit, takes Conor Benn from Eddie Hearn in Matchroom. Big deal. You guys have seen it over the last week and a half play out. Eddie was saying how, devastating it was emotionally. It took him off guard. Dana was like, stop being a pussy, bitch. And it was getting a little nasty. but that's the fight business. It's a
Michael Bisping suggests Eddie Hearn's signing of Tom Aspinall is more than just a management decision. It's a statement aimed at the UFC. The deal highlights the contractual and promotional challenges fighters face if they try to cross organizational boundaries. Hearn is leveraging business strategy to ensure Aspinall has commercial freedom while remaining under UFC contract, showing how fighter representation has become a calculated part of the sport's behind-the-scenes power struggle.
I'm telling you, I think Eddie is just trying to get back at the UFC here. He's trying to cause annoyance for Dana White. Eddie's going to want to resign. They won't allow him to resign. And as I say, in the meantime, he gets stalled out, sits on the sidelines, and tons of time pass by. He won't be able to go fight in another organization. He certainly will not be able to go and box, because if he does, he will be breaching contract and no doubt will get sued. So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong.
Liam Goff reports that Eddie Hearn is striking back after Conor Benn joined Dana White's Zuffa Boxing by signing UFC heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall to Matchroom's talent agency. This deal secures a major star for commercial growth and brand expansion outside the cage, while still respecting UFC fight commitments. It's a clear message that Hearn isn't passive in the rivalry, using management contracts strategically to counter Dana White's influence in the business of combat sports.
Eddie Hearn is striking back. UFC heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall has inked a stunning deal with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing. The UFC heavyweight champion has pinned a deal with Matchroom's talent agency a little over 2 weeks after UFC Supremo Dana White poached Conor Benn for Zuffa Boxing. So let's carry on. So Benn, 29, ditched his promoter of 10 years late last month to ink an £11 million deal with Zuffa. Obviously it's $15 million US, which roughly is around about £11 million. And Hearn has hit back by signing the baddest man on the planet to a commercial and advisory
Radio Raheem explains that this signing came as a surprise to many people because there was no strong public rumor about Matchroom's talent agency targeting Tom Aspinall. This deal confirms that Eddie Hearn is positioning his company not as a traditional fight promoter, but as a management and commercial representation platform for fighters. According to the release statement, Matchroom is handling Aspinall's talent management rather than acting as his promoter, which is a very important toggle distinction in combat sports business. Since Hearn is not registered as a fighter agent in the traditional sense, this arrangement operates more like advisory and brand management representation. The move keeps Aspinall inside UFC competition while allowing commercial development outside the organization.
You know that was coming, maybe you did, but it hadn't been the word on the street, which I imagine puts Matchroom in the position not as Tom's promoter. In fact, I know that to be a fact because that's not what this release statement says. They're representing him as talent, which is another way to say management, because Eddie Hearn is also not an agent. That's a very specific thing you have to be. So, he is Tom Aspinall's manager.
Johnny Nelson describes Eddie Hearn as a highly strategic businessman who understands combat sports market psychology. According to Nelson, this move is not primarily about immediate financial gain, but about long-term positioning in the sports business hierarchy. He compares the situation to a family separation analogy, suggesting that business decisions sometimes create emotional reactions inside organizations. When Hearn moved from Sky to other platforms, it was also a calculated business decision, rather than an emotional one. The same pattern appears here, where the signing of Tom Aspinall may have affected UFC leadership sentiment. The situation demonstrates how promotional politics and business competition often intersect in modern combat sports, where influence, control, and fighter representation are becoming more important than single fight negotiations.
And his team are here, and I get it. I remember when Eddie left Sky for the Zone, we were like kids, like parents, are split up thinking, whoa, what's going on here? That was a business move. For us, it was a personal, because we loved the union with Sky and Matchroom. We loved that. But that was a business move for them, so it worked for him. So you understand, it comes at different levels. So I understand where Eddie's coming from. I understand where Conor's coming from. I understand the public are thinking, how can he be such an ungrateful so-and-so? I get it. But this boxing is a sport, is a business disguised as a sport.
Liam Goff suggests that fighter deals inside the UFs often depend on maintaining strong working relationships with the promotion. Fighters who cooperate closely with UFC management tend to receive more opportunities, while those who operate independently may sometimes face limited exposure. This commentary implies that behind-the-scenes dynamics can influence career momentum. He also references the UFC documentary scenes involving Aljamain Sterling's situation as an example of organizational politics inside the sport. Eddie Hearn's approach is expected to be different because he is unlikely to simply agree with Dana White's promotional demands. Instead, he will fight aggressively for Tom Aspinall's commercial and career interests, potentially creating more public and behind-the-scenes drama as this business rivalry continues to develop across combat sports.
Whether it was because Tom was saying he wouldn't fight certain heavyweights that were his friends if they made their way up through the rankings, or whether it was because of the eye poke and the way the situation ended in the main event, Dana was clearly not happy and was saying things that were clearly like at the detriment of Tom, and he did it for a while. So we'll see an interview in a second where Dana's like, I've always liked Tom Aspinall. Bullshit. Okay? Bullshit. Now, that doesn't mean that he still doesn't have to deal with Tom.
This entire situation feels less like a simple management signing and more like a statement in the ongoing business battle inside combat sports. The partnership between Eddie Hearn and Tom Aspinall represents a new era where fighters are thinking beyond just winning inside the cage. For Aspinall, this is about building financial security, global recognition, and long-term brand power while still competing at the highest level in the UFC. For Hearn, it's a strategic response after losing Conor Benn, showing that he is willing to push back against Dana White's influence in the marketplace. The real question now is what happens next. If Hearn successfully expands Aspinall's commercial value, this could change how top fighters negotiate future representation deals. On the other hand, if Conor Benn continues to rise under Dana White's boxing venture, the rivalry between these business giants could reach another level of intensity. Fans are already debating who is playing the smarter long game. At the end of the day, this is more than promotion or management, this is about control, power, and influence in combat sports business. Or do you think Dana White still holds the upper hand? Drop your thoughts below and join the debate.